guys, welcome back to 1813. This is Fair Warning. I'm Kevin Steele. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you being here. We have an important conversation today about the TPC explosion and what it means to our area. Joining us to talk about these matters, Brent Kuhn, attorney in town. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Good to see you, brother.
Caitlin May with the Beaumont Enterprise, the writer of an extraordinary piece on this terrible incident. Thank you for being here.
For sure.
And Brian Sutton, yes, that's it. Brian Sutton, old favorite around here. Thanks so much, guys, for being here. I want you guys to talk from the legal vantage point and you to talk from the journalistic vantage point, all with the idea of going towards what our friends in Mid-County particularly need to see happen, what kind of things we think can move forward to advance this cause of folks getting, their settlements, getting covered for what they need to get covered for, and, in some cases, actually getting back into their homes. Let me start with your article, an extraordinary piece. You had to find about 2,000 pages worth of documents and pour through all of that, which I can tell you is a tough process. What are you most shocked about? Maybe we start there from what you found. We found debris in Ridge City even that had asbestos in it. That's not all we found, though. Tell us more.
Yeah, so, and especially the point about the asbestos finding, and then it's in the article, going back to TPC and asking, I just want to make absolutely certain, did you say you found physical asbestos? And they went back to, well, we didn't find it in the air. And so that was something that was really surprising to me, continuing to push that point. We didn't find it in the air. It's not harmful, but they did find it in actual physical debris. So that was surprising. Also, a text thread between emergency management officials that Jefferson County was not told immediately when TPC found the asbestos. Several hours later. So that was very surprising. And then to see, I know we had heard during the course of the explosion people talking about, we saw that an alligator had died, we saw there were some fish that were dead, but seeing just kind of the listed numbers of how much wildlife they found.
We'll double back on some of that. Very good points. Brian, Brent, you serve the legal profession in a way to help the people of Mid-County. I know both of you have put yourselves out there as people who would help people if they would come to you and talk about what has happened to their homes and try to make good things happen in their lives. Some 22,000 dead fish. We must believe that we have some kind of an issue there.
Oh, it's definitely an issue. It's an environmental issue. It's an issue that involves both air issues and water issues.
Yeah.
And the Texas Attorney General has brought suit very recently for those violations of Clean Air and Clean Water Acts.
We're talking about 8 emissions between January 2018 and September of 2019. We're looking at several violations even in the past. How did companies get away with this, with the TCEQ?
I can tell you
that's
part of
that.
And here's part of it. There's a revolving door. And the revolving door involves working as a safety person at a plant, getting to know the TCEQ, and then going to work for them and already having established those relationships. Now, I don't know that revolving door is as tight and as close as it was 10 years ago or more, but it's always been a problem. And there's just not enough strong enforcement and regulation. Anytime there's a fine levied, lawyers are brought in to reduce the fine. And it becomes a question of what's it worth to fix it and what's it worth not to. The other thing that I'd kind of like to point to, and it's now even a plot line in popular television. I don't know if you watch the Austin 911 show with Rob Lowe, who has, in the show, lung cancer because he was a firefighter in 9/11. The fires and the debris and the pollution raged out there, and it continues to be in Mid-County. Nobody is really talking about what it's going to be like, not next month, not 6 months, but 5 years from now, for the people that were living out there and cleaning up in the area.
Caitlin, there were 7 administrative orders from the government to TPC between 2014 and 2018. So there was advance notice. Your reporting, I think, very aptly showed us how much in the past is going on. What were your perspectives when you were writing this piece about how that continued to happen over the course of time.
So I want to make one addition. There were 7 included in the lawsuit. There are 8 more that were not included that will go before TCEQ on Wednesday, again in that 2018 time period. So even more than we've seen so far. But I just kind of keep going back to comments made by the commissioners when they decided to send those violations to the Attorney General along with the explosion, is this thought that the TCEQ commissioners can't know, but there's enough questions about what led up to this explosion that they thought that it was worth sending the violations along. So were all of these connected? I think continues to be a question that is begged, but we see state officials asking it now.
Is there hope for the residents of Mid-County at large, and what is the next best hope? We continue to see there was a leak even this week. There are continued issues down there. Is there something that the viewers need to know to take care of themselves at this point?
Well, yeah, there's always a need to know. The basic on the need to know, Kevin, as we all know, is understanding transparency. The problem that we've seen throughout every refinery explosion, chemical plant explosion that our firm handles, it's one, what we specialize in really. We do these all over the country, been doing it 30, 40 years now. And in every one, it's very much the same scenario. There's what they call the damage control that comes after the fact. And once we get involved in doing the litigation side of it, we find out, not surprisingly, that most of the things that triggered an explosion or disaster were things that the plant was aware of beforehand. And then went into some of the things that Brian touched on, which is a cost-benefit analysis of every decision they make, including do we violate the law and pay the fines when we get caught? Sure, if the fines are low, the fines are not a serious enough penalty for them. If they make $1 million savings doing this, and if they get caught, they pay a $100 fine. They deliberately break the law because they're going to make a lot more money breaking the law. And so you have to have a lot more enforcement. It's one thing Brian touched on. And the other is for all these communities, a big gap is transparency. Transparency before something happens, and certainly much more transparency after it happens. In a lot of these cases, we've been able to get what we call the playbook of the petrochemical industry, and it literally is a playbook. And there's an explanation in there that almost every company, it's their Bible that goes through, here's all the things we have to do on the front end in terms of establishing relationships. Like Brian mentioned, the revolving door. We want relationships with the local officials. We want
If this happens, then
before it happens.
This is Monday through Wednesday work for Friday night's game.
Right. And so in that playbook or the explanations of all the people within the company have responsibilities to establish relationships within chambers of commerce, with the mayors, with the other politicians, all the way to the state level, and many times for big companies, all the way who are the contact people to keep the skids greased with major agencies, regulators, and even White Houses. And that playbook then tells them, once we have these in play, if something bad does happen, then these are the things that we do for damage control. The people that have established those relationships within our company then go out to those people they've made those relationships with and start selling their side of the story. And it can be the media relations, public relations, political relations. So they spin that, and they do that on purpose. They undertell the story of what happened, why it happened. They undertell the story of the risk. They don't tell you about all the things that they know are going on in the water with the spill. They don't tell you all about the things about asbestos in the air. They deliberately cover those things. And even when you get point blank with them, did you have air monitoring for asbestos? Well, we monitor it. Well, did you monitor it with the direction the wind's even blowing? Yeah. You got to find out all these little tricks of the trade to pin them down. It's what Brian and I call cross-examination. If you just listen to their side of the story, it sounds okay. You start getting in and rolling back to the layers of the onion, you find out they do all kinds of things, and there's all kinds of risk that they don't want to tell you about. Again, it's transparency. And our local political figures and the people that are involved in emergency management and stuff need to understand that's the playbook those guys operate from, and they need to be much more forceful with those guys to make them tell the truth.
Proactive.
Proactive, sure.
Yeah, Caitlin, are there more stories forthcoming in the next little bit in the Beaumont Enterprise as a result of what you found? What's the next shoe to drop, if you will?
Absolutely. Working on some reaction stories just to the AG's lawsuit. Talked with Jefferson County Judge Jeff Brannick, who seems to not be on the track to also sue TPC, but has some more actions going on with ways that he thinks to help the community heal from this. Obviously, the violations coming up next week. There's a hearing from TCEQ looking to see what happens with that. And then some other lawsuits that we anticipate coming down that my colleague Jacob Dick is working on.
Very good. Folks, notably it's you that we're thinking about. So if you have questions that we can pass through our attorneys and maybe take a closer look at some of these things going on in your street, neighborhood, or with your family that we can help with, contact us. We're here for you. See you next time on 1813 Fair Warning.